What's up everyone, it's Dakota and welcome back to another Pioneer video. It's been a while since we've looked into the Pioneer format and I wanted to come back with a new deck. We kind of went over some of the top tier decks, some of the changes they made, so on. So this one in particular I really like. Ignore it because I definitely am not the creator of this deck. I know I've seen Todd Anderson or Tandy playing a lot of this deck, Doomwake playing a lot of it, so I wanted to check it out and go over it for myself. So today we're going to be taking like a Boros Pia for the Pioneer format. And of course, before we get too deep into it, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel and you want to support me and my content, you like seeing modern Pioneer stuff, all of that, please consider subscribing to the channel and ring notification bell so you know when videos get posted. Also, if you go down to the description of this video, there is two links. One goes to my Discord server, the other one goes to Twitch. Go ahead, follow those links, join the Discord server, follow me on Twitch so you know when I go live. Of course, join in any of the, just magic talk and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, it's fun. I really like talking about magic. It's a great game. Love it. So, Boros Pia is essentially based around this card, PNLR Console of Revival. So it's a red and a white legend for a 2/3. It gives Thopters you control haste, and whenever you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, you create a 1/1 colorless Thopter token with flying and essentially haste on top of it. So your game plan essentially is to play cards from exile. So you have these what we call impulse effects in Reckless Impulse and Ren's Resolve, which are essentially two of the same cards, where you exile two cards from the top of your library, and until your next turn, you may play those cards. Ren's Resolve doing the same thing. And you also have Showdown of the Skalds, which was originally printed in Kaldheim, that you exile the top four cards of your library, and until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards. So you get this for 4 mana. Chapter 1 is that you exile 4 cards, and so then your next turn you can play them. And then from there, the second and third chapter, whenever you cast a spell, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So with all of these effects, you essentially want cards that are going to be super cheap. It makes sense. So for creatures, you have Monastery Swiftspear, you have Soulscar Mage, and you have Bone Crusher Giant being the other creatures in this deck. Monastery Swiftspear, Soulscar Mage, one red mana. They're both prowess creatures. A lot of this deck is, non-creature spells, from, Play with Fires, Chain to the Rocks, Kamano, things like that. Uh, this is an easy way to kind of get a benefit from, playing those cards. And then, of course, the fact that if you play like a Pia, you're able to kind of go wide after playing these impulse effects, but then also just kind of go tall with some of these prowess creatures. Also get counters from Showdown of the Skalds, very nicely, as all of these creatures do, if we're being 100% honest here. Really, that's kind of like the engine, is like Showdown of the Skalds and like these cheap-ended creatures, of course, making a bunch of tokens with a PNLR. Bone Crusher Giant doubles as like a 2 mana spell that you can, cast and more than likely remove something. Uh, Also, on top of that, too, it naturally just goes to exile when you play Stomp. So if you have a PNLR in play but don't have any of the impulse effects, you can just cast a Bone Crusher Giant from its adventure, and you end up getting the Thopter from the PNLR, which could be a reason to build more into playing the cards that go on adventures. And maybe when we see cards from Wilds of Eldraine, there could be some cards that go into this Boros Pia deck they kind of do that other than just playing these impulse effects and Ren's Resolve and things like that. You know, so you have your creatures. Play with Fire is just like damage-based removal. Just kind of get some of the smaller creatures and stuff out of the way. You're gonna be taken to the skies more often than not, so there is chances where this card just ends up going to the face and just giving you a little bit of deck manipulation with the scry just to uh, end up drawing, the basically like drawing the last set of gas that you need, finding Pia, getting some impulses so that you can attack with, or make tokens with your Pia and things like that. Going to the bottom, the like final of like the cheap spells are going to be more of your permanent, like, well, half of it your permanent removal in Chain to the Rocks. You have to enchant a mountain you control. That's where you're playing 7 mountains and 4 Sacred Foundry, and over 50% of your lands are mountains. This enters the battlefield. You exile a creature an opponent controls until Chain to the Rocks leaves. Just super easy, 1 mana, like exile a creature. Most decks aren't going to have an easy way of dealing with Chain to the Rocks, so usually it's just going to be like a permanent removal of a problematic creature. And Kumano faces Kakazan. It's just going to deal the damage when it enters. Chapter 1. Chapter 2, the next creature spell is going to enter with a +1/+1 counter on it. So getting like Swift Spear, Soul Scar Mage, super easy to follow up with this on like turn 2, or even like playing a Pia to get it out of range of some 3 damage burn spells. And of course, like the 2/2 side of it, gets to be aggressive. It's 2/2 haste, and if a creature would be dealt damage by a source you control and it would die, you exile instead, which could be pretty relevant for some of the other like Greasefang and stuff like that. People that decide that Greasefang is still a pretty fairly decent deck to play. You have 20 lands. Your mana base is super simple. You have 4 Battlefield Forge, 3 Inspiring Advantage, 2 Needle Forge Pathway, 4 Sacred Foundry, and 7 mountains. Again, playing so many mountains because you want to have mountains for this Chain to the Rocks, plus the majority of your deck is red. Really only splashing the white for the 4 Pia, the Chain to the Rocks, and the Showdown of the Scalds, and getting access to some really good sideboard cards in like Invasion of Gopa Con, which getting to attack with those Thopters and, get to flip this, get the Light Shield Array, and then be able to protect your board just by sacrificing it. And if you don't have to, just slowly growing it as you take to the skies and kind of attack through and everything. And it makes it harder for your opponent to deal with them. Rest in Peace for like a graveyard decks. Redain, a God of the Worthy, which is a super annoying card to deal with, at least on the backside for like the Rakdos sacrifice decks, because they're not able to really ping anything because it prevents 1 damage from from a source, or from you to you, or a permanent you control from a source your opponent controls. Also making it so that your opponent, that anything that targets you is countered unless they pay 1. So just overall like a very good card. You have Destroy Evil, which is like efficient removal for some bigger creatures, also getting to hit enchantments. Some uncounterable removal for like the Azorius Spirits deck. You have Alpine Moon for the different Lotus Field variants that we are starting to see pop up. And Portable Hole is a little bit more removal for those small creature decks, more like mono white, maybe even like the Boros Pia, like mirror matches, aggro decks, things like that. And that is the Boros Pia deck for the Pioneer format. Really interesting deck. Definitely a way of going around like deck building where you're kind of going full on this, seeing a bunch of cards, playing them from exile. I've seen some variants of this playing stuff like Steamkin, Runaway Steamkin, to just generate more mana and to keep the cards going and things like that. So very interesting to see where this deck goes, and especially if Wild's Eldraine, giving us more cards that go on adventures if more of them end up making it into this Boros Pia deck. So if you enjoyed this deck and you want to see more Pioneer stuff, or you just want to see more content from me in general, please consider subscribing and ring the notification bell so you know those videos get posted. Go to the links down below, join the Discord server, join the or I guess follow me on Twitch so you know when I go live. Of course, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. As always, that's gonna do it for me. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all in the next one.